Yes. Blackburn,
Present.
Hageman, Hedge,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Craybill,
Here.
Mishigian.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum with 6 people.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody to silence your cell phones and that this is being recorded. So if you come to the podium and speak, you will be part of our meeting. Next is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the regular council meeting minutes from August 26th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
Is there a
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have public comments not on published agenda. Any public comments? Seeing none, we will move to discussion topics, and first in line is the Police Department Monthly Report. Welcome to our new chief, Chief Lawson. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you. I don't have a lot to report, but I did want to remind residents that those legally posted campaign signs, that we don't want you to borrow them, move them, steal them. We've already had a couple incidents in Franklin, and we have prosecuted that person, and so it'll be like zero tolerance on that. So just to remind people, let's just leave those signs alone. They'll be gone soon enough. And then the second thing I'd like to remind the residents is make sure you lock your cars, remove your valuables, and please don't leave your key fobs in the car, because we see that quite often, and it's a very safe community, but bad things can happen anywhere, right? So, and with that, I'll just ask if you have any questions on the monthly.
Does anybody have any questions on the report?
No.
No?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome to our fire department chief. Changing up my language.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
You received our written report. Just a couple of notes. First off, thank you to the local Bingham Farms during our severe weather incident in August. We responded to approximately 20 runs in Franklin, 0 in Bingham Farms. So we're very happy. With that, I'm assuming Detroit Edison tree trimmers are going to be very busy in Franklin in the future. With reference to our overall run volume in August, as noted in the report, our typical monthly totals go from 50 to 60. In August, we had 80. So it's getting to be a very busy time of year. As we approach the fall, the cider mill is open. The bee stings are on the rise. The fires are going to take place, and although Bingham Farms does not have an ordinance, the fire department will respond to any calls with concerns or questions, and we will extinguish fires that are not attended. We want to make sure that fires are kept under control and they are reasonable in size. I won't define what that is because I'm already working on that with Franklin. Other than that, the fire department continues on its maintenance and inspections that take place each year. We've completed everything with the exception of fire pumps on our trucks, and those are going to happen either the first or second weekend of October. And through the courtesy and generosity of JFK Investments 30,300 Telegraph, we are using their parking lot in order to get that accomplished. It affords us some space to do the work. It affords water to do the job, and it will take place on the weekend, so it's not hopefully going to impact any issues related to parking of the tenants. Pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
I'm looking at the past 12-month response, or 18-month
Yes,
response trends, and the false alarms went through the roof.
they did.
Is it an individual, or is it just all across the board?
It's not any one individual. There's a number of factors that take place. Specifically, I'm not going to call it careless cooks, but I'll call it those who set off the alarm based on their cooking style. and don't call the alarm company to cancel us. And it also relates to those that are performing work in their homes, whether it's sanding walls or floors. So this is I'm not going to say it's anything new, but yes, the numbers are increasing. So, and we, you bring that up, and it's very interesting that I've been on the phone with Evgeny 3 times in the past month, I think, at least twice, with reference to the false alarm notices that are being sent out by the village to the residents, and people requesting information pertaining to those. There was another, it's going to go down a quick rabbit hole. A thank you to Debbie Hedge for pointing out that there are residents in Bingham Woods that are putting in doors doorknobs that do not have a key to open them. They have an electronic system. So it allowed me to get some education to better appreciate how we can deal with that in terms of the Knox boxes that are in the village. So if there is a resident who has a electronic lock that does not have a key, we'd be more than happy to have them give us a call on the phone. And we can, instead of putting a key in a Knox box, we bought little dog tags, little aluminum tags. We can put a label on the tag, a non-paper label, and secure that in the key box. So that way we can still have access. If there is an electronic lock that does have a key, we would always prefer having a key because keys are mechanical, buttons are electronic for the most part, and all electronics work great until they don't. Whereas a key can give us a little bit more peace of mind. So thank you to that. Sorry, long answer, short question.
No, that's fine.
It's good.
Sure.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Brad.
Moving on to the manager's report.
I don't have anything to add to, well, I do have things to add. I don't have anything to address in the report, but I have 2 things that I wanted to mention to council and to the public related to contracts that we have. I was hoping to get these on the agenda, but I just didn't get the information in time to do that. So number 1 is the snow removal contract from Johnson Landscaping. It's been presented to us. There are no price increases at all. So that will be on your October agenda. And the second thing is I have the proposal for an extension from Car Trucking, our rubbish contractor. It is a 3-year extension. The first year and the second year, there is no increase. In the third year, there's a 3% increase. So they're offering basically no additional for 2 more calendar years. Well, no. Yeah, calendar years, because it starts in January. That will be on your agenda as well next month for review and possible approval.
When does that current one expire?
January.
So we've got, okay.
What was the term of the last one that we agreed to? Was 2 years or 1?
It was a 2-year extension, I
2
believe.
years.
Are they the only game in town
Are they the only game in town? You
to
mean?
pick up trash?
No, there are other games.
There are. No, I've never
Honestly,
seen
I'll
them.
tell you what. I don't know if any of you have watched news reports of, on the problems that so many cities and villages have been having with another contractor. I don't know that we would get a lot of games apply if we were to, a lot of other bidders, if we were to go out for bid. We could, but our rates are fairly low, and 2 years with no increase is pretty good. So we will see. We'll have that in the packet. You guys, we can talk about it next month and more when it's all in front of us. Yes.
Yeah, I just briefly, I have no complaints over the service I've received. They have been exemplary
Mm-hmm.
and very predictable when they arrive. And I have had complaints from my friends who live in an adjoining community where they switched services because it was going to cost less. and they skip days and they don't show up, and, you know, it's been a real problem for the residents.
Mm-hmm.
So, I, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
for-
Yes.
Yeah, I seem to remember the last time that we did put the trash out, contract out for bid, we did have other people that came in,
Mhm.
and we actually decided to renew with these guys even though there was a lower bid for exactly the same kind of
Right.
reasons that you pointed out, because we seemed to think that they were doing a good job, and, you know, if you have something that's working, why switch it? kind of.
Yeah,
But that was several years ago.
2 years
Well, it was
ago.
before I was here that we actually had other bidders.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been extensions ever since I've been here. That's been 6 years now, so it's
Yeah.
quite a few extensions.
Well, it'll be on the agenda
Right.
next month, so. Did you have anything else?
No, I do not.
Okay. Evgeny, anything for the Economic Development Coordinator Administrative Assistant report?
Have
It's a mouthful.
nothing to add to my written report.
No questions?
Yes,
I see that there's a tenant who's gonna take over the Mandaloon property,
correct,
and they talked about a soft opening.
correct.
Can you divulge who the tenant is, or what kind of
It's a restaurant that I think they might still be a little in the process of determining the final name for the restaurant that's going to take place there. But I spoke to a representative of the gentleman that's actually going to be the restaurateur running the place. And he's got some experience running other restaurants, big and small, fancy and non, including downtown Detroit. So he's familiar with the area. One of the things they're talking about right now as far as the soft open is they're going to, when they are ready to have their opening, they're going to be running probably just like lunch service at first and then expanding into a more full service business as they go.
So it's not a real high-end restaurant then?
It's certainly going to be higher end than whatever we have in the strips along Telegraph. So I think they're going for a little, it's like sit down, a little above casual probably, but they're not looking for like your steakhouse level.
It won't be Morton's,
No.
but maybe another Mandaloon would be nice.
Yeah, some along those lines. It sounds like they're more on the, like in the
Yeah.
American fare
Yeah.
genre of cuisine, but
Be nice.
But it's not a chain?
No.
So it's an independent?
correct.
And we still have an empty storefront on Telegraph, correct?
If you're talking about Noodles and Company, yes. So we were supposed to hear something from them regarding signage, but we haven't gotten anything yet. They still have a little bit of time to get onto the agenda for Planning Commission for next month, but we'll see what we see. In the meantime, Jimmy John's is working on their resubmission for next month's at the Planning Commission, and the Mandaloon space is in the works. So, and the gentleman I spoke to seemed pretty excited about collaborating on some sort of opening event to generate buzz around the place too, which I think would be great.
Anything else?
We should probably include that in our next newsletter.
Yes,
If we have it in
if
time,
we have the
we will.
information, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helping their soft open, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, going to, thank you, Evgeny. Ongoing business, mobile watch signage. Trustee Mashigian, you had asked this to be on the agenda. Did you want to start it out?
Yeah, the mobile, there, apparently are signs in Franklin for mobile watch that they're not using. And we discussed at last month's meeting, contacting the chief and asking if those signs were still available, we could possibly use those. So,
Do you know how many there are?
no, the only problem would be if they, I think the new ones in Franklin have the Ben Franklin.
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which might be just a tad confusing for people coming into Bingham Farms. That
Yeah.
would make it probably not applicable. to our community. But we might as well take a look and see what else they have. But yeah, I don't, Deb, no Ben Franklin on our signs.
It's a big silhouette. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember them, so. But I was just going to follow up with the chief, and then we have several people that have looked into signs and for suppliers and cost of the mobile watch signs. And so we're gonna follow up next month at our meeting, talk about what that would cost to invest. What is the position of the village
As far as,
as the signs?
what do you mean, like the cost, or are we gonna do it?
Is this something that the village has in the past provided or no?
So I believe it was 2011, I think, when I think the village did purchase, I don't know if it was all or some of the signs. So I have spoken with the president of Mobile Watch in the past, and I know Ken has as well, that because we've paid for signage in the past, that we would be offering that gift, I guess, if you will, again. Mobile Watch isn't really a village entity, but we've done that in the past, so we would extend that generosity again, but that it would be done at the end of each road project, basically.
Right.
Loosely every SAD.
Yeah.
And depending on how the SADs.
Okay. All right, well, I'll share that with them.
Okay.
And I know we've had some donations. But I'm not sure what the balance is, so we'll know more as we move along.
So maybe Mobile Watch would put in some money as well?
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. I have to see. It's not my decision. I'm not a decision maker with the group, but I can speak with Karen about it and
Okay.
see what she wants to do.
Was there anything else? Because I don't know if that's anything new that wasn't talked about last month. Is there anything new to talk about with Mobile Watch? No? Okay, so that's the position of the village, is that we would make it, we would make the Mobile Watch signs part of the overall signage project at the end of each road project SAD, I guess you could say.
I guess that would be buying them and installing them, paying the labor for the installation as well as purchasing the signs.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
If there's nothing else about Mobile Watch, we'll move to stormwater discussion. I think you also asked for this to be on the agenda?
Yeah. I was hurriedly leaving town when I realized I had neglected to send an email. And so I quickly put something together to explain it's been all summer long that we have had wet drains in front of multiple homes. And I'm talking about the water level being above my sump pump drain and my French drains. And, we talked about being responsible for those drains, ditches. And I'm very concerned, and primarily as my email said, and I didn't expect anybody to respond. That's not why I sent it. It was more sharing information. And, I think there's one more thing is that there are exclusions to the Open Meetings Act. And one of them is The act is not violated where a member of a public body conducts an informal poll of other members to determine how they would vote in a particular issue where no decision regarding the issue is made. So it's really, the Open Meetings Act is to protect the community from those that are sitting on council or board or whatever the entity is, from having discussion and decision-making. It does not mean that we can't have a discussion and a polling of an issue type of thing, which I think my email, the boundaries, these are the boundaries I observed when I did the email. But my concern is that we have neighbors that are now engaged in reconstructing the ditches. And in one area that's putting in a ditch upwards of 10 inches deep, probably 10 inches wide, along the front of a couple of homes. And it still did not drain the water in front of my home. And I see that as being an ongoing problem. And I'm thinking that we may need the resources of those that can help explain why. And that would be, my surveyors did an excellent example of showing me my elevation from one side of my property to the other side of my property. And I have records going back to 2009 from my first survey, and then again in 2020, I did a second survey. And there's been an alteration, which means that the drainage system is not functioning as it was initially built to function.
Does your sump pump drain into the ditch?
Mhm.
So it's constantly water that's being drained into the ditch?
Well, it's not constant. It's when we have a rain. But I generally can hear it. And I can go for, we've had like a week of no rain. And my sprinkler system isn't more than 8 minutes on a section. And so that would not have a big impact on it. It just isn't, we have a lot of clay.
Mhm.
And that impacts it as well.
Go ahead.
So, I think I understand the concern, and I in reading the materials that is actually in the next topic, this letter from HRC about working on the roads, one of the provisions talks about drainage review. It sounds to me like that is gonna address your problem, is it not? Am I reading it wrong, or?
Well, I don't know that they would do the actual survey. You have a surveyor, a licensed engineer? Okay.
Would you like to
Yeah.
just explain, Brad, roughly what your, what the intention of
Yes.
the proposal is regarding that? For now, we can move into more detail when we get to the next item.
Correct.
Okay.
So as far as what the drainage review of the road program is, we've already done this in many locations around the village, is we've gone out after periods of rain, after the day, or like immediately after, saw where areas were ponding, 24 hours after, then 48 hours after, to see where areas might puddle, but then drain, and see areas that puddle and then stay, and they're there for 48, 70, then we have a problem. So that's how we define what's a problem and what is just naturally occurring water that ultimately drains. So we'll do that. And then in those locations, we would take what in the next item on the proposal was selective survey. So we'll have our surveyors go out there in those areas that we found that were the wettest, and we'll take actual grades from that location all the way down to where we know it's supposed to go, right?
The little stream,
Down to,
yeah.
on Bingham Lane, down to the little stream. And we'll figure out, why is it not draining? Did someone fill in a culvert? Is one culvert higher than the other culvert? And that's why it can't go that way. It can't go uphill, right? Gravity always wins.
Yep.
So we will take all that and figure it out. And that's part of it, but only in the areas that have a problem, not just carte blanche over the entire roadway. That'd be expensive, but in the areas that we show have issues.
Well, I'd love to see that report, to see where you found consistent pooling over a period of more than 2 days.
We won't have that for, I mean, we don't have it right this second, but we will, it's part of the process. In the next
Okay.
3 months, we'll have it all
Can
figured
you
out.
have it sooner than 3 months from now?
It takes a while. That's part of the schedule. It'll probably be part of the base plan that we go review.
Okay. Yeah, modifications have been made, major modifications to the ditch. And that was because we had several neighbors with flooded front yards. And they wanted to cut the stream of water, which was on my property. And I agreed to it because it was just intolerable. I mean, their whole yard was wet. And you could see the water. It wasn't that it was just moist in the grass. It was visible. So, but that just meant that was one less of a stream for the water in my ditch to drain into. And so now we've got to have a more permanent solution that still protects their yards and yet clears my ditch and allows my sump pump to drain as it's supposed to.
I can tell you that ditches in these areas, you got to think most of these culverts are 12 inches, correct, in diameter.
Yes.
So 12 inches in diameter. Per the manufacturer's recommendation, you're supposed to have 12 inches of cover over that pipe. So from the top of your driveway, when you have a concrete driveway, to the top of pipe, you need 12 inches. The pipe is also then 12 inches. So what does that give you?
Yep.
24 inches.
Yeah.
You're talking about a 10 by 10 ditch, that's not big enough. These ditches need to be larger. Problem is people don't like the look of that because it doesn't blend in nice with all their other yards. So that's the expectation that we need to kind of get out there. It's like these ditches need to be bigger and wider so that water can flow. And that if a little bit of debris or a little bit of weeds start growing up in it, it's not gonna block everything. So, and we need room. You get further down the road, you get like a wooded area, right? That gets really close to the road. Guess how big the ditch is there? Not very big and not very deep.
Well, the other thing is
So
a
we need
lot of the
room.
foliage along the road is old. And it tends to be that breaks off rather easily, ends up in the ditch.
Blocks it, yep.
The rain comes, the leaves fall, the leaves are now this big around, just blocking everything. And I try to clear it with a stick, but I don't have a big enough stick to clear that one. And my neighbor does get out routinely and will dig. And he was actually going to call a friend with a backhoe to come in and do that. And my first thought was, oh, what are we going to change here that maybe shouldn't be? Because there's no guide. There were no instructions on what we're supposed to do to keep our drains clean. What are we charged with doing? How do we keep them clean? How deep should they be?
And most times when people bring stuff out, guess what they don't do? They don't haul away all the spoils, right? They put it somewhere else. And then that somewhere else then ends up being in a ditch anyways. You know, if that gentleman would have brought his backhoe, I doubt he would have taken out all the soil that he took out of the ditches and hauled it off somewhere. It probably would have been right next to it. It's expensive to haul away dirt. That's why contractor expensive.
I
But
don't think what he did.
usually they'll spread it out somewhere and kind of try and level it, but that changes the grade in some spot, right?
And I just did an addition with having to dig out a lot of soil, and it was all in the backyard, all scattered.
Yeah, you didn't. You probably didn't haul it out, did you?
No, I didn't want to.
Yeah,
I
it's
wanted
expensive too. That's why.
All right, not to beat a dead horse,
No,
but
that's going to be part of the process. And there's other ways we can do. We can also put under drains in where, like you said, there's a lot of clay. That clay doesn't, the water doesn't infiltrate into the ground with the clay. You put it in an under drain. You can just put a simple under drain in the ditch, and you fill that. You got if it's a 6-inch under drain, you usually got like a 12-inch slit or hole you want to say that it goes into. You fill that up with gravel, you know, and then you put a little layer of topsoil over top of that just so that you can grow grass. But guess what that does? It sucks the water down because now you have gravel instead of just clay sitting there. So that can drain the ditch in soggy areas as well.
That 6-inch has holes in it.
And that's perforated.
That's
correct?
what I just saw that today.
Yep.
I was Googling some information.
Yep.
And I saw this big line of holes with little pebbles, larger than the holes.
Yep, larger than
Yeah.
those. A lot of times we'll wrap the trench in with like a geotextile fabric so the
Yeah.
fines don't get into the,
That's what my French drains are.
exactly what it is. It's a
Yeah.
French drain. A little more elaborate than your standard old
But it
ones. They
might
don't
be
pipe in it, but
a good option because the clay's not going away.
no.
Right, so we're
But-
gonna let you do
Yeah.
your report.
That's
Because we're not-
that's gonna be part of
We're
the.
talking about the whole village, not three houses.
We're gonna be
And
trying to be strategic
Right,
about it
and everything's
because
gonna
it
cost
costs
money,
a lot more.
Right.
That costs money.
right,
So we wanna be strategic in those locations, only where it's wet and it stays wet for a while.
right.
If your water goes in a ditch and it stays there for 24 hours and it's gone, guess what? That's what a ditch is for.
Right,
It's what it's supposed to do. It's working.
right. And it,
So we're not gonna touch that.
right.
Well, I do have photos.
I
Or
think
you can
the-
see,
so I
you can
can-
see on Google Earth. I mean, Google Earth and Google Maps,
Yep.
you can see the areas when they're wet. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
But we still, again, we went out there while there was raining, after it rains, a couple hours to document all that. We have pictures to show all that too. So
Right.
we've done our due diligence with that.
Thank you.
And people just have to realize it might not look pretty, because I know people have filled in grass and they want it to just be grass from their lawn to the street and level and all of that, but
Yes.
that's
So
all
it's
creating.
managing expectations, a lot of what we do.
Right. Okay, so are you done? Is that your discussion? I mean, you
Yeah,
asked.
I think we obviously need to wait until we have their report and go from there. Look
Okay.
at solutions.
Well, then we're gonna lead right into,
Okay, you want me to stay up here?
Yeah.
All right.
yep. I don't know if you wanna introduce anything, or do you wanna just hand it over?
Let me just say a couple of things. Yeah, Brad, thank you for being here today. Initially, Brad had prepared something in early June, and I said, well, let's wait till we see where council goes in terms of how we're going to pay for this, in terms of millage, SAD, and whatnot. That has occurred. That did occur in late June at the council meeting, and then in August we did the first stages of setting up the SAD with resolution number 1. And at that time, I think it's now that that's been done, both of those steps have been taken. It's appropriate for Brad to make this presentation today with this proposal that he's going to give us. So go ahead, Brad, and take it away.
Okay, so as Ken had mentioned, we wanted the scope to be defined by council as exactly what roads you wanted to get done and what method. That's what the resolution did. So that's why we kind of waited for the resolution to be approved before we came forward to more. You've had all these costs, you looked at all these costs and everything for a while now. This just kind of brings it all together and says, this is our project, this is what we're doing, this is our scope of work that we're doing, and these are how the costs lay out based on what we do, essentially. So you know what we're spending your money on. And that's really what this proposal just kind of more detailed outlines all the costs that were in all of our original proposals, I guess you want to say, or cost estimates and things. So that's really all this does. Just sums it up in one document so you know what your expectations are, you know what your schedule is, when you're gonna get documents, when we're gonna go out to bid, when the construction's gonna be, and how much HRC services are estimated to be. Yes.
When I looked through these, it felt to me as though there would be more responsibility on the village personnel, especially in the bidding process.
Well, it says we would assist the village.
Right,
Correct.
assist, but you would not actually conduct the bidding process. The village would be responsible for soliciting vendors.
Correct. So we would prepare everything, get everything ready, and pretty much say, hey, Evgeny, can you put this up on BidNet? Essentially, which is the competitive bidding platform for this. And we cannot put a contract up for bid on that platform. It's a municipal trade network. We cannot do it. So we rely on our clients to do that. So they would take that, they would be responsible if there's any addendum needed to come out, we would do them, get them to them to post. So they pretty much post, gather, collect, organize. We'll do all the reviews, we'll do all the recommendations, things like that, but ultimately it is a village project.
Okay.
So that's what the assist means. We'll take care of 95% of the work, but ultimately the village is the responsible party. It needs to have final say on everything, sign off on everything, and make sure everything goes off in a clear, transparent way.
Okay, the word assist is what was concerning me, because if it would cause a huge amount of work on the existing staff, they might say, hey, we need more help in this, so I wanted to just differentiate and make sure that we weren't gonna put ourselves in that position.
No, of course not. We don't want to say we're going to do it because we know we physically we can't. We're not.
Okay.
We're not a government entity. So, but we do as much as they want us to do, which is typically, again, with a short staff like they have, is a lot of the work, which is what we do for many municipalities. But there are some municipalities that are larger that have staff that they handle pretty much everything, like a Rochester Hills and a Troy, where they have a procurement department that puts together all the spec books and bid documents, and we kind of just give them the technical side stuff, and they put everything together. There's a lot less assisting in those circumstances.
Do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions, I think.
Okay.
First of all, I just want to make sure that the $3,765,000 figure, that's an all-in figure. Is it?
That's a total project cost.
Okay, so the figure in the fee of services section,
Mm-hmm.
that's included in the
That is included, correct.
Okay, and then, we have some money that we're gonna use for this that's in what's called like a major road fund. And it's very difficult, as I understand it, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, to use that money for anything else other than a major road. And we only have one major road, it's Bingham Road. So that's all a long way of asking, is there a way you can break that figure, the $3,765,000, into two parts? The one part being Bingham Road and Timber Trail, which we're gonna do in '26, and the other part being all these other roads that you listed in your letter, which I think we're gonna do in '25. And part of the reason for that is we've got like a schedule in terms of like what money's gonna get spent when, and when we have to go get a loan and all that stuff. And it would help to know how much of the 3.7 is, for the first group of roads, and how much of it is for the second group of roads.
Number one, I guess with my understanding that this was all gonna be bid out at once. So you're saying you wanna bid this out separately, or do you wanna just set it up in the contract where you have to do these first set of roads first and then delay the start of the second of Bingham Road and Timber Trail? Cause we can break it up in fiscal years too, and say you can't start Bingham Road or Timber Trail till after July 1, 2025.
Yeah, I don't know whether we,
Cause it's gonna be more cost effective to do it all at once, I'm just letting you know that right now, than to try and break it up. So that's the first question. So I'm not asking you right in your spot right now, but just think about that. The way to break it up easily is just take the cost estimates and divide that. If Bingham Road is 40% of the total project cost, construction cost, then our design fee would be 40% of the total cost there. That'd be the easiest way to do it, if that makes sense.
I think so. I guess I don't know that we ever decided we're gonna bid it on one bid or two bids. And I certainly don't have any, if it's cheaper to do it in one bid, I'm fine with doing it in one bid. I thought that we was sort of thinking about doing the construction though in 2 years. With the first construction being the off-roads in 2025, and the second construction being Bingham Road in the second year.
So what we would do, and what I had envisioned it, is we would set up the contract with a sequence of operations to say you must do the side streets first, pave the side streets or at least base them in, and then do Bingham Road, and then top everything all at once. That would be the most cost-effective way. That's how contractors want to do it too. They want to do that. They want production asphalt, right? They want to bring asphalt in and do as much as they can all at once. So we're actually doing that in Beverly Hills right now. We're starting a project where we're doing Pierce Road and then a road kind of off of that a little bit. So we told them, you got to do this Reedmere Street and this street first. Get that done, base it in, meaning put the first layer of asphalt down first. Then you can come back and start doing Pierce, because Pierce is more of a main road. You do that next, so that Pierce Road is under construction for a shorter duration of time than the entire project. And then at the end, you put the last layer of asphalt in all at once. So that's how I would envision that. It's not too much, your project you have here is not too much for a contractor to do all in 1 year. And if you're worried about finances, you would be splitting it between fiscal years as well.
You would be splitting it?
Yeah, you'd probably start, I think the schedule has starting in June, right?
September, yeah.
So June to December, you'd be splitting fiscal years if that's an issue.
Okay, I'm still like trying to figure out, like, how would we know how much money we were spending in 2025 versus 2026?
We can give you the best estimate as possible. Based on the bid numbers that come in, you can separate them out pretty easily, based on how much is allocated to which road, because we will have that in our plans. We'll have a couple plan sheets that'll be just Bingham Road construction. So you just tally up all the bid items from that. How much does Bingham Road cost, right? And then you'd have all the other costs for all the other roads. How much does that cost? And then you have a couple items that are going to be, like your mobilization and your maintaining traffic and restoration, that are going to be kind of all-encompassing costs, right? And you kind of split those based on the total.
So we wouldn't have those numbers in until you did this.
We can give you an estimate, which would be pretty cool. That's really what we'd rather do, is just give you an estimate. This is what we think, and just set it up that way. Because you start going after, and we believe me, we've done this with other ways. We've done it both ways, and always just getting it out front, getting a percentage split memo of understanding, if you want to say, at the time of design and before bid, that this is going to be the percentage for this is going to be the percentage for this. And you're going to split it up that way throughout, because contractors will bid things differently. They may bid rig a little bit. Bid rig is not the right word. They may weight their bids differently for different items if they want to, and that can skew that a little bit sometimes. So our estimates are usually pretty equalized. We don't have heavy over here, heavy over there. So that's why we like to use that item. And just as long as everyone's under the understanding that we feel this is a fair bidding way to go, then there's gonna be a split.
If you could give us an estimate of 2025 versus 2026, that'd be great.
And you want Timber Trail to be 26, fiscal year 26,
Yeah.
correct?
I didn't think we were going to do Timber
I didn't
Trail.
either.
Well, we're turning it into a path. There's a cost of
Right.
I
turning.
think there's two options: we turn to a path or vacate. Is that correct, Ken?
I'm suggesting that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought we were going to seek grant money to turn it into a path.
We are, but
We are,
why
but there's
are
no
they-
guarantee of getting that. We're going to try.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's if you decide to do it that way.
You can keep
thought-
applying too. You can apply. We can apply this fall or winter. Then you can apply next fall or winter, even after it's done.
I think we
apply.
decided that we were gonna turn it into a trail. I thought that was
We
one of the
did,
decisions we
yeah.
made. So yes, it would be Timber Trail is turning it into a pathway.
Whatever you guys decided to.
Well, let me just say this. I had heard some resistance in the past about a path to nowhere. So I suggested perhaps maybe we could just vacate the whole thing and give the properties to give the road to the adjoining properties. That would be even less expensive than the path. But if there's no appetite for that, that's fine. I'm happy to
Not
continue with the
the
pathway.
Pretty much what it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In November, there's gonna be 3 new people, and if those 3 new people decide they wanna vacate it, then, fine with me. But I think what we decided to date is path.
Well, the committee recommends that, but this body hasn't made that determination.
Okay, I guess I thought we did, but, maybe I'm mistaken.
I feel we've talked about it.
We did.
And I thought we came to a conclusion.
To make it a
To make it a
walking path.
To reduce the cost of
All
the
right.
overall project.
Is the path option part of this? part of what you submitted, Brad?
Yes, because
Yes, it was,
Okay,
it was
okay.
the more expensive of the two options.
Okay, so if there's a motion and this is approved, I think that's sufficient to say that the path is the option.
Okay.
All right.
The path is the more expensive of the two? I thought
Then to
making,
vacate it, yeah, it's more expensive than
Then
to
you just
vacate
walk
it.
away from it.
okay.
The option to make
Cheaper
it,
than
the option to keep it a road, I thought was not, it was too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in your original.
That was in the original, yes.
Right, okay.
Yes,
Well,
not this,
If
though.
anything that's open to the public is going to have to be safe in order for it to exist. We have to get it up to a safe condition.
Okay, I think I got it now. I think, can I ask just two more questions? What is a 75 complete construction drawing? What, 75% complete construction drawing? What does that mean?
Pretty close to being done, but not quite 100%.
Okay.
It's got most of the details on there. It's got the general, like where we're gonna do the drainage improvements, and then we'll maybe come up with like a couple of, hey, we could do this, but this costs this much, or we could do this costs this much. What do you think? What direction you want to go? Before we do the final details and get into the final, like, splitting hairs on stuff, we want to get concepts out to people so they can look at it and be like, do you think this will work? Do you not like this? What do you think? So that's 75% of it is just getting the, all the plan sheets cut, everything on the plan sheets, all the driveways, all the road, all the, details, contours, elevations. That's a large part of it. It's almost half the job is before we even get into the engineering of it. It's just getting all the CAD stuff set up, getting everything set up so you can get a good set of drawings to look at.
Okay, and then finally, and the fee of services part of your proposal, I wasn't sure what that was in terms of like provides a mix of CPM treatments that most cost effectively extends the useful life of.
So capital preventative maintenance is CPM. So that's those couple roads where we have the slurry seals where the road is in good enough shape. We don't need to put more asphalt on it. We can just do a slurry seal or a cape seal, what we call. So it's a much more cost-effective remedy that extends the useful life of the road. That's what in the shorter term fix. Remember when we had
Right.
I got it somewhere. We had that whole big thing where we went to the short term fix. That's what the shorter term recommendation was for a couple roads. I believe Bingham Lane, Old Orchard, and Fromm.
Okay, all right,
Where those three roads were in good enough shape where we didn't need to. It would have been more expensive, obviously, to mill off and put on.
got it, got it.
But this would be a way to extend the useful life very cost effectively, which has been done in the village in the past very successfully.
Thanks.
What was the grade for Bingham Lane? The
Like a
paver?
5, I believe.
It's up, the map is up there, right above Mr. DeComb's head.
It's not a 5. It's a
It was a 4. It was a 4. It was a 4. It was a good 4.
Okay.
How about that? 4 plus.
Good 4.
Good 4. 4
Not
plus.
just a 4, but a good 4. Okay.
Yeah. If it was a bad 4, like one of the other roads was a 4. Like Bingham Road is a 4, but we because of the traffic we recommended a mill and overlay on it, so it was probably a 4 minus. Wanted a little bit more substantial fix or repair, you would say.
Okay.
So do we need to talk more about 1 year or 2 year, or, do you need that direction tonight?
I don't need the direction tonight. We're gonna move forward. It's more cost effective for us to design one project with one spec book and everything like that as well.
Okay.
So if you guys choose to split it up, it's not really too difficult for us to split it up.
Well, the split is a financial, correct? That's why we wanted to split it, or no? That we wanted to pay for it over 2 years as opposed to 1?
I think at least part of the split was because there were gonna be 2 SADs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the work was gonna be done over 2 years, but if it's cheaper to do over 1 year, I'm certainly not gonna die on that hill.
It's cheaper
Okay.
maybe to do it that way, and then, we can't forget that we do have Bristol Road to do as well. So like, for, or Bristol Lane, I'm just don't wanna keep, trying to save a few dollars over here and splitting it up because the cost is getting higher. We're not done with the project, right?
Right,
So the costs for the rest of the project are continuing to rise while we're extending the time over here.
that's true.
I believe, Kurt, you started the discussion by saying that funds from the major road line can
fund.
only be used for Bingham Road.
Correct.
And
yeah.
that's what started this whole discussion about separating out numbers.
Correct.
So,
Well, so here's a caveat to that. If the village would put together a roadway asset management plan, you can transfer major to minor roads and it's not such a big deal. Now, there's a cost to that. Based on where we come in on our plans, we may be able to fit that in this budget. I'm not gonna say that right now, but that could be something that towards the end of our design, if we see we're tracking very well, we could roll that roadway asset management plan into our design fee, and then you wouldn't have an issue with transferring between major and minor.
But I don't think we're going to eat up everything in the major road fund
Correct.
through this thing, once we
Doing Bingham
split it,
Road,
yeah.
right.
So
Oh, yeah, I don't know how much, how much
It's like
is.
800,000.
Oh, yeah, you're
So we
good.
don't need to move it.
No, you don't need to move, you're good.
Right, but we can't use it, if we do 2 years and we do the smaller roads first, we can't use it in the first year, we could only use it in the second year when we did Bingham Road. But
correct.
if we do both roads in 1 year, then
Then it doesn't matter.
that doesn't matter.
That's Bill's shop. Figure that out.
Right. I just want to make sure we're, making the right decision and, it's taken us so long to get to this point. I think we need to keep moving.
I just have a detail question.
I love detail.
Yeah, well, to me, it's simply a detail. Is driveway access points, what's gonna be done when the roads are refinished or replaced to the entrance of each driveway?
So we've set it up so that where there's not drainage improvements, we will not be touching driveways.
Okay.
Okay? Where there is drainage improvements, you have culverts, you have ditches, they go through, we're gonna have to take out driveways. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there's a lot of nice brick paver driveways, concrete driveways, the crushed stone aggregate type driveways, things like that, which are all very aesthetic. A lot of times councils will make decisions saying, well, we're putting asphalt back and that's it. I don't know if that'll fly too well in this community, especially if you're asking them to do an SAD. So when we go through a brick paver driveway, guess what? We're gonna have to put that brick paver driveway back. That's expensive. So that's gonna be a consideration as well. Where we do drainage improvements and how we do drainage improvements. If we gotta take out driveways. If we have concrete driveways that don't have two entrances, two access points, we'll do them half width. Concrete one side, but then the other side, if it has two access points, we'll do one driveway, and then we'll do the other driveway. That's all written in the contract on how we do things, how to stage it though. People always have to have access to their properties.
Good. That's nice.
Except for when we do the Cape Seal, there'll be like a 4-hour time point where
You can't get
where
home,
you don't want to drive on the sticky stuff that they put down.
or else you're gonna be home for the duration, yeah.
No, just 4 hours. And they'll knock on doors, and say, hey, we're doing this today at 9 o'clock. If you want to get out, get out. If not, you're gonna be here till 1 p.m. That's okay with you.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah,
that's what they do day in and day out.
Yeah.
These guys know what they're doing.
Having just lived through that on my street this spring, it was the easiest process ever.
Actually, it's happened
be
on my
patient
street
with
a few
it.
times, and I don't even remember it. So
Well, there you
all of a
go.
sudden I woke up one day and I had 2 concrete driveways, and I don't remember having a discussion about it, but whatever. Okay.
Speaking of specifics, along Bingham Road, just south of the bridge, the Franklin River Bridge, there's almost sheer rock. It's not sheer, but it's really it's steep and it's like boulders and they're kind of built into a hill.
Mhm.
Expecting any kind of issue with that at all? I mean, it's very close.
How close to the road is it?
You couldn't pull over,
couldn't pull away. Well, I mean, they'll be able to get their mill machine through there.
I would imagine.
They'll
Okay.
get their paver has little wings on it. They come out.
Okay.
So we paved close to things before.
Okay.
I didn't know if you want to get rid of it and do something else with it. Well, again, that's more
I don't know
expensive,
about getting
right?
rid of it. No,
That's all expense. And again, these paving guys, they like to do their road stuff. They don't like to do other stuff. They like
Yeah.
to do their road stuff.
Okay.
So they're good at. It's how they make their money. They don't make their money adjusting manholes and doing retaining wall stuff. They make their money putting asphalt down. So
Okay.
that's what they want to do.
All right. Thanks.
You've got,
But those are the types of details that we'll go through when we get the plans up, and we'll bring some of these things to your attention as well.
Thank you.
you got the 75% owners review meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Owners meaning the property owners?
No, the village is the owner.
Ah, okay.
So it would be with these three.
So is there a point in which the residents will have some visualization of what's going to be happening?
We can.
I'm just-
We can never make everyone happy,
Mhm.
right? When we have these meetings, we get a lot of, well, I have this drainage issue, and sometimes it's in my backyard, and so that has nothing to do with the road. So you get a lot of ancillary comment, you get a lot of ancillary things that we can't take care of with the road project, so that's the caution. If that's something that council wants us to do, is to hold like a charrette type meeting where we lay out all the plan sheets and we have a couple engineers here and people from the public are able to kind of come look at it and say, this is my house and this is the issue I have. I don't mind it because the residents live there. They see these things every day. We only see glimpses when we go out and take a site visit. They live this every day. They know the issues. They know where there's a pothole that comes up all the time, or we're probably going to have to do an undercut, things like that. Or they know that this area doesn't drain well and things like that, things that hopefully will support our decisions that we saw that too. So we're going to fix that. We're going to try to do something like this. So I don't mind it. It's a lot of effort is all. It's not in here, but again, these are things that we can.
I want to remind everybody again, I'm always playing the devil's advocate. It costs money, and not just money when they're here. You would need to prep for that, and
we need to respond to everyone.
Right.
We take their questions, their names, and numbers. We have to respond to everyone.
pay a couple engineers to be here.
Copy Ken.
It'd be very expensive. And we had our resident road committee. I mean, that was sort of part of the whole idea of that was to hear from the residents, and then we're here.
Now, what we have done, actually, and we're doing this right now for Adams Road and Rochester Hills, we created kind of like a GIS platform where we could say, we're doing this road, and people could just leave comments on the website and say, hey, I have an issue here, I have an issue here, I see this here. And therefore, we're not really standing somewhere and people got to come in. They can do it from their home computer and just say, hey, I have this issue with the road here, and they'll leave a comment, and we can address it just on the computer, kind of. And they'll probably leave their email address. It's not my project, but I've seen us do it. They'll leave their email address and we can respond to them, and everything will be copied through Ken so that he sees all the comments as well. And again, I don't mind the feedback. I'm not out there 24/7 like all the residents are.
And then what is the resident communications?
That's their construction. So that's like all the door knocking. So you can see it's broken up between design and the construction.
Right, but it says you'll be available to meet with residents within the project
During
area.
construction, yes, during construction.
During the construction.
During the construction.
So they can't, it says to answer questions.
Yep.
So that you guys, like, they come out into the street and
We'll have
ask.
an observer there full time.
Okay,
Anytime the contractor's on site, there will be an HRC representative there
okay.
to deal with resident issues, complaints, knocking on doors, again, let them know that, hey, we're doing something on
Right.
your road, handing out flyers ahead of time, all that type of resident communication. And then there's also, we get emails, we get calls, Ken gets calls, Evgeny will get calls, he'll be like, I don't know, we try and update them as much as possible what's going on so that they can answer some of the easy ones, but sometimes there's harder ones that they need to forward to us, so we gotta respond, so there's a lot of communication that goes on
But all that communication is included in the
in the
cost.
construction,
In
yes.
the construction
Yes.
costs.
Yes.
So,
So
But again, we have some money that we can do some of these things. We build in a little contingency into our price too, because there's things you find that you'd never thought about, during design. And we may come into where we got to design a whole bunch of drainage, that we didn't anticipate, and it costs. That's where your money goes, is designing all the drainage. Make sure you got the grades right, the depths right. The roadway is more putting together your typical sections, like how do you want the road to come back, checking out the grades of the driveway to make sure everything drains correctly, things like that. So the more drainage you get, the more expensive the design is.
See, I've seen some homes where they have built boulders coming right up to the road and by the ditch and everything, and it's very aesthetically beautiful.
With
But,
block drainage, it's gonna, I mean, the village has right of way.
right,
That's not their property. They need to realize that that's not their property. So we can move those boulders onto their property line and say, we need a ditch for drainage. So you can do what you want on your property. We can't touch that. You're right. But in the village's right of way, we need room for drainage.
okay. And so during the design review stage is when you might say, in house X, we're gonna do this because we need room for
We would
drainage.
send that to Ken. Be like, Ken, we got these couple issues here. Can you
Address them.
Soften the
Yeah.
blow.
talk to these residents, or give us the? I mean,
There will be
sometimes
communication
yes, we'll
during the design aspect.
we go through Ken on the design. We typically don't communicate directly with residents during the design phase
Okay.
because that gets into, well, you did this for this person. We want to stay away from that. We want to go through Ken as our point of contact. He's our main guy.
And so Ken, do you have a position where once you find out something about how a property is going to be affected,
Do I have what?
a position on what you're going to be doing, are you going to then go to each of the individuals who are going to be affected and say, this is gonna happen?
I would, sorry, hold on. I would imagine, yeah. If they tell me, if Brad tells me that there's an issue with someone's having stuff in the right of way, whether it's decorative garden or whatever, then definitely we'll have to talk with them. I'm not gonna just say, go plow it over.
Typically, we'll send letters. We'll write letters.
Yeah.
Again, they come from Ken.
Right.
We'll probably ghostwrite it and then say, "Hey, Ken, do you agree with sending this?" And then we'll send it out a village letterhead and all that, saying, "Hey, during our design process, you have such and such that's in the village right of way in order to keep drainage, positive down to the point. This will need to be moved. You can move it yourself, or we will move it for you. Just letting you know."
Mailboxes,
Yes, you need them, right?
yeah, but I'm just saying, will they be removed?
Hopefully not. I mean, a lot of times what we do in these projects is we actually we relocate them to where they're supposed to be. So if you didn't know, per USPS regulations, the face of the mailbox is supposed to be at least 1 foot from the edge of pavement and 42 inches high. Okay, that's so the postal carrier doesn't have to drive off the road to put mail in, or it's not too far into the road where people hit it because it's in the roadway.
Yeah.
And what that is, and we like to relocate those because we find oftentimes that a lot of edge cracking on roads and things like that is where mailboxes are, because mailboxes are too far off. So that mail truck has to drive off the edge of the road to get in, and it leads to holes, like depressions in it, which leads to roadway cracking, and that cracking just spreads. So we like to get those mailboxes right to the back. Problem with moving mailboxes is when they were originally installed, a lot of people just put wood in a hole and dump concrete in there. All right, well, concrete right up against wood is constant moisture that decays. We take those poles out and they're rotted.
Yeah.
So we have to replace the whole frame. Well, there's a lot of decorative mailboxes around here that don't have, perfect looking poles. And again, you start messing with people's stuff that they paid money for. That's where you get your complaints. We try and stay away from it, but sometimes it's just necessary. And that might be another one where we say you have a nice mailbox. It does not meet U.S. postal regulations. We advise you that you move it, or we will move it for you, and we're not responsible for, we will replace the post, but we're not responsible for any damage to the second house that you built on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, mine's not that bad. Well, it isn't. It's not bad.
I worked in Bloomfield Hill before this, so there was a lot of those replicas of the house on the side of the road. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the good part is that there will be communication with the residents before a truck comes and starts doing something.
Oh yes.
Okay. That's what I'm.
We don't want this to be a surprise to anybody.
People will still say it's a surprise, mind you,
Yeah.
that they didn't know, but we try and communicate as much as possible.
Interesting.
So what kind of motion do you need?
Just a simple motion to approve the, whatever the,
I have one more-
whatever the
I have
official.
One more question.
Oh,
Yes.
We would invoice monthly, starting when?
Starting as soon as you approve this.
At our direct hourly rates plus a 1.9 multiplier.
Correct.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that?
So that's standard billing practices. The 1.9 multiplier is for overhead, all the printers and administration staff we have with that, overhead and profit, all those things. That's our
So the 3
standard
million
billing
wasn't
rates.
wasn't inclusive, there's another 1.9.
No, the 3.765 total all-in costs.
Includes the multiplier.
Yeah, so if you see, if you go to the last page,
the graph.
if you go to the last page, the rates on there has the 1.9 multiplier.
Yes,
So
So that's really your
So
overhead.
if you really divided those numbers by 2.9, that is the actual hourly rate of that employee. So it's the hourly rate plus 1.9 times the hourly rate gives you the billing rate.
so what's gonna take place between now and January?
We put together those design plans, like we said, so this is a fairly large project. It'll probably be about 30 sheets large, 30 sheets of construction documents, and then spec book that's about 200 pages long. We'll get those into draft shape for everyone, for village staff to take a look at. We'll go through it with them, because, you know, this is not something they look at every day. So we'll kind of go through it with them, saying these are the front end documents, this is your proposal, these are your general conditions, these are the contractor's insurance requirements, these are the technical specifications for, you know, how they're supposed to lay asphalt, how they're supposed to do this cape seal process, what type of pipe they're putting in the ground when we do drainage, type of topsoil and seed they put back. Do you want sod, or do you, sod's more expensive and harder to keep up, but topsoil and seed do a better job of establishing, you know, in the end. So how do you want to do that? Do you want to do hydro seed? You know, we'll go through all those things with village staff.
Just a thought, because we have contact with the residents. They come to us with questions. Possibly we could be part of that, observers, when you come in and explain.
I mean, I don't know how the rules work for how many council
Right, it
members can
seems
be at a
easier
meeting.
for you to just refer everybody to Ken.
There's,
Like if there's questions, I think the
Right.
less of the phone game.
You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Right.
so the other thing is, I mean, in January, so that's in December, and according to the calendar here on page 3, in January, there's a presentation to the council.
That was for, why do we need to do that? We need to do that for something. Yeah, so it'll be a presentation to the council.
So, I mean, that will be a public meeting right here in this very room with
Mhm.
public attendance and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good,
That's something that Ken wanted.
good.
It's kind of
That's the January
January
meeting?
28th.
28th.
Yeah.
Do you have a packet there?
Yeah.
It's on page
Yeah.
3.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that's the 4th Monday. You must have looked that up already. Let me double check it.
I did, I looked it up.
I feel like the best way to communicate with the residents is for
That's
them to come to meetings.
Yeah,
That's a Tuesday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Messed up. 27th, sorry.
All right.
It'll be the 27th.
Come to meetings, watch the meetings, or direct your questions to Ken. I get nervous with, you know, just too many people answering too many questions, just because it's so technical. It's just so many moving parts.
And again, a lot of times we'll get questions about their backyard drainage that leads into a 2-hour conversation.
Right.
And
That we're
I don't
paying
think the
for.
village really wants to pay for that, exactly.
but ultimately they're paying for it in the SAD too. And so we have to be mindful of the fact they're making an investment.
But it
Right,
has nothing to do with the
We've
road.
already
That
paid
is-
the taxes, which is all we have to live on, is our tax money. So we're paying that and then we're paying the SAD for this. So I think we owe it to residents to make this information available. And I think the January meeting is a perfect
Right,
opportunity.
absolutely. I'm just saying we don't need to be answering questions about people's backyards. Only road questions.
Mhm.
So as designed, this would mean construction in calendar year 25
Correct.
altogether,
Right.
which I think is what we'd be voting on here, right, or both. Okay. Just wanted to be clear.
Again, it's just a summary of everything you
Yep,
guys already
yep.
talked about in your resolution, just
Yep.
putting it into one document so you have clear scope, schedule, know what you're paying for, know what's going on. That's really why I wanted to do this. This is what we typically do for most municipalities, so I wanted to do it for you guys. You had it in front of you. Something you could reference.
So I would move to approve this as in our packet with the January date adjusted to the 27th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
All
your
right.
time.
Thanks, Brad.
All right. You guys don't need me anymore?
I
I have a
don't
question
think
about my backyard one year.
It's not that we don't need you, but
Backyard or side yard?
Side yard.
Thank you.
He already knew
We'll
it.
talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay, we're moving to treasurer's report.
good evening.
Bill, good evening.
Agenda item number 7. We have 3 items under the treasurer's report this month. I wanted to let, obviously, council know in your packet, there was a memo that kind of addressed and gave highlights of 2. The first one is a resolution, and the other 2 are the same bills and financial statements. So in your packet is a sample resolution for annual exemption options set forth in the 2011 Public Act 152 for publicly funded Health Insurance Contribution Act. And I received a certification that I have to send back to the state for Act 51 money that certifies that we abide by this act and or exempt ourselves from it. So I went back and looked, and the council, as part of a policy, has exempted the village from the act. There's unlimited amounts of years that you can go ahead and exempt. It's not, they say you can only exempt it for a couple of years. So that can continue, and we have in the past, and the resolutions in your package, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the proposed resolution.
So you're suggesting we do it for 2 years then?
Yes, because it's usually done in December, but I thought, all right, if we have the meeting, we could certify for this year and for next year.
Is there a reason why we would do it for 2 years, other than just so we don't have to do it again?
I just thought instead of having to bring it back up in December, we could, if you want to exempt from the 2005 and just approve the resolution, we'll re-update it for just January 1st of 2024 through December 31st of 24. It's totally up to council. I just put it on there as 2 years and thought we would just knock it out all at once.
I can't imagine we would change this, but I'm not gonna be on the council in January 2025, and I'm a little bit reluctant to vote to do something that
You're not here.
next year's
Next
council
councils.
would be voting on. That's the only issue that I have with it. I don't see any problem with doing it again, but I'm wondering if we really want to do it for 2 years when 3 of us aren't gonna be here.
But you're
The second-
still on council. You are still legitimately our
Right,
trustee.
if you guys wanna do it for 2 years, it's fine with me. It's just,
Okay.
somebody coming on new might vote a different way is all I'm wondering about. But if you guys think it's okay,
It's council's decision.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
we're making a lot of,
We've done the same
Decisions
thing
that-
every year on
right.
this
Right,
repeatedly,
right.
so I don't see why anything would change. I
Okay.
really don't. But I do have a point that I'd like to ask Bill about. Bill, if it's 2 years, shouldn't 2026 be somewhere on this document?
No, because it's current year and then next fiscal year that
Okay.
starts in January.
All right.
so does anybody want to make?
Need someone to offer the
Right,
resolution.
for the resolution?
I offer,
go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
That's right.
I offer the resolution that we continue the program for another 2 years, extended.
Second.
All right, this is a roll call.
Right, any discussion? Roll call.
Blackburn,
Aye.
Hedge,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Graybill,
Aye.
Mishigian.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you much.
Thank you.
you.
Next is the approval of the September 2024 bills.
Okay, I'm all excited. Treasurer's excited. And I'll tell you the reasons why. So in your packet, there is, as every month, checks that are dispersed from August 27th, 2024 through September 24th, which is tomorrow, 2024, out of the general fund for a total of $417,183.70. And here's what I'm excited about. It's more typically than what we've seen on a regular run rate. The reason for that is I took $250,000 out of the operating budget to purchase a CD, and I did that Monday prior to the Fed meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we secured a rate of 4.35% through Independent Bank, which was a bank that we had a CD with prior. And we locked and loaded in on that, and now we're set for that CD for the next 9 months. We have another CD that is expiring on the 25th, which is this Wednesday from Chase, and that 250 with the interest will come back into the account, and then I will go ahead and disperse it into the new investment vehicles that I wrote about in your memo. So I just wanted to bring that to council's attention that when you see the 417,000, it's like, all right, usually it's not that high. That was the reason for it. And obviously it's in the details of each of the checks that were cut. The second one is same thing, check disbursements for the gas and weight fund for the same dates, August 27th, 2024 through September 24th, 2024. There was only one invoice from Johnson's Landscaping in the amount of $1,890 even, for a total fund disbursement of $419,073.70. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy again to answer that.
Yeah, so Bill, I don't ever, I mean, it's just the presentation of this 250, like usually when you're renewing funds or buying CDs or doing that, I don't think you usually cut checks for them, right? I don't remember seeing them in the check register before when you're making those investments.
The ones that I have purchased, I have.
Okay.
There are two kind of paths. The first is if we have an existing CD that's maturing and we're just going to be renewing it, there's no reason. They just send us the interest for
Gotcha.
the check for the interest. When we don't have one and it's with another institution that we closed out in the past, then I have to have a check in order to get those funds.
Okay.
I can typically do it sometimes by ACH, or they'll transfer it if we have funds within the same financial institution. But this is the second. I wrote one when I first came on board, and then this is the second one that I issued the check in order to purchase the CD.
Got it. Okay, so that's why it shows up here versus, I guess if it had been ACH, it would not have shown up
Well,
here?
no, if it was a renew, like for instance,
well,
if
clearly.
Chase, because I looked at Chase and they said, here's your factors for renewing, and they were like in the high 2s, low 3s. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that if I can get 4.35 at Independent. It's just that I didn't have any account. I had an account in the past in Independent.
Got it.
And so all the paperwork was there, the signers were there. I just had to be able to get the funds
Got
too.
it. Okay, and if you had done it through an ACH, would it have shown
Yes,
up on
it
this
would.
report? It would have too. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks. I don't have any other questions.
So I see that we've paid rent for both October and September. Rent due
Actually,
10/1,
let's see, right here, let me go down to,
and it says 9/1.
all right, so under Jamestown South, there are 3 rent dues. So yes, rent due 10/1, I have the check and I'm holding it. And then if approved, I will mail it out tomorrow. Rent due I paid for September 1st, that was due September 1st, that check was,
already done,
that check
right.
was out, yes. And then we have $1,000 for the sign that they put out on the marquee that has the village offices' names on it. So that was $1,000 for both sides of it.
Oh, okay.
So those are the 3 items that were there.
The Beverly Hills, it's the PEG and franchise fees. What's the franchise?
Those are PEG fees, which are public education access for the cable board. So each quarter, we get payments from both DirecTV or AT&T Direct and Comcast or Xfinity. And of that, we take those funds and then we disperse those funds to share back to Beverly Hills, which is part of the cable board agreement. So every quarter I cut back, they keep 100% of one fund and they get 40% of the PEG fees. So that is what they get on a quarterly basis, each quarter. And then I report that not only to them, I report it to the Birmingham cable board as well.
Yeah. All right.
If there's no other questions, is there a motion to approve the bills for September 2024?
I make a motion to approve the bills for September.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Next is the financial statements for
Yep.
August of 2024.
Yep, sub-item C, last one, financial statement. So we'll start out with the profit and loss statement for ending end of August, August 31st, 2024. This is the second month into the new fiscal year, or 17% into the year. I've gone through and I make sure that I look at, and again, I compare this to last year, just from a tracking perspective like I do every month. And we're tracking just as we were last year. So we're right on schedule for where we were same time last year, as far as a percentage basis. Any questions regarding the profit and loss statement?
If there's no questions, is
none-
there a motion?
Well, I want to just move on to one other one,
Oh.
which is the investments, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
the second
sorry, go
piece.
ahead.
No, that's all right. So this is one that I'm also excited about. And I put it out into the memo. So Huntington Bank has a vehicle program that's called Insured Cash Sweeps. It meets both Public Act 20 and the village's investment policy. The things in the past where we would bring in tax receipts and then I would have to make sure that I abide by the investment policy, which was can't have more than a certain amount with one financial institution. It all has to be FDIC. You have to track it and make sure that you're not above 250,000 so that we're protected and insulated. And they have a program, as do other financial institutions, but since Huntington is our normal bank for operating, it's just much easier to deal with on the same website. So if you had a chance to look at it, what they do is we take the funds and they sweep them into various different banks that insure it. And if they'll give me a statement and you look at it, they'll put $247,000 in one bank, so it's under the 250. And they'll just break out that entire amount so that each bank has less than the 250. And there's no fees that are assessed towards the village. We can close the accounts with no fees or penalties at any time. The nice thing about it is it's giving a 5% rate, which just changed on the 20th, Friday. It's now 4.5%, but it's still a good rate. 100% FDIC insured, and it's 1 day liquidity. So what I mean by that is if I need funds, if I put the request into the bank by 1 o'clock Eastern time, those funds for transfer will be back in the operating account at Huntington by the next morning, so that I can use it to write checks against. So it's a great, my view of it, it's a great opportunity to, I always tell Lisa, my whole mantra is minimize fees, maximize interest income. And with that, I think we're doing a great job with this vehicle that's provided itself along with the Michigan class, which has also been producing and providing a great interest rate. It's like 5.32% on average this last month when I looked at it. Now, again, since the Fed just dropped the interest rate, we'll obviously see rates go down. But for right now, as well as, we'll make hay while the sun shines and try to make sure that we maximize as much interest as we can. And I like the idea, again, of it made me very happy to be able to secure that 1 9-month CD. And we've got others that are at 5% that we went for a year. So at least for the next 9 to 12 months, we're in good shape. Yes, Aaron.
So on Go ahead. On the investments page, you show that Huntington account having $1,600,000.
1,653,600.
You're saying the reason that meets our investment policy is that that cash is actually not in a Huntington account.
Correct.
It's
It's
underneath that you
yes. They move it. So it sweeps.
Yeah.
It goes back, and what they'll do is when I look at the statement, and you'd be more than happy to look at it, there's various banks that they have, and they just make sure that that is all under 250. There's no balance that's greater than 250.
individually.
Correct.
Each bank is, and
Correct.
there's no duplicate
No,
banks.
no, because when they ask us, as a matter of fact, that's a good point. So let me just point this out. When I first set it up, they said, what banks do you currently deal with right now? Because if you have other investments in different banks, like we do, right? They would say, for instance, we'll use Flagstar. I said, all right, here's Flagstar. So what they do is they put that on an exception list so that they know that they can't deposit any other funds within Flagstar that would put us over the 250 amount. And then between both the gas and weight and the general account, they don't cross paths there either. They'll always make sure that it's balanced, that the exception list is there, and that's the reason why they're able to make sure that it's FDIC insured up to 250. And actually, up per individual account. Overall, insured cash sweeps are actually covered up to $240 million. So we're never going to get to $240 million. It would be nice if we had that kind of money in the village, but it's a very sound, secure, ironclad. I went through all the steps, made sure that we have them sign off on both our village investment policy, and I've got written documentation from them that it also part of our investment policy. It has to abide by Public Act 20. So we're dotting all I's and crossing all T's.
So my question was basically the same. I just want to make sure, these rates sound great, and I commend you for doing such a good job in getting us the highest interest rates possible. I just want to make sure that you read the investment policy as it currently is passed, and you're convinced that this fits with it.
Yes.
I haven't read that.
So
policy.
I read the investment policy.
All right.
I have the bank sign off that they have to abide by the investment policy. And I reviewed this with our auditor prior to it to make sure that there was nothing that I was missing, and asked Raina whether or not there's other municipalities that do it. And in fact, they do. They do use this vehicle.
Great.
Are you asking it in the approval for the financials? You're not seeking any sort of approval or comment on this vehicle? Right?
No, other than it's just I wanted to make sure that I'm completely 100% transparent with council, and it's no different than last month, and you guys approving it every month as you approve the financial statements. I just wanted you to know where the money is.
Let me articulate. I cannot and am not approving the investment strategy. I have to rescind myself from voting on any investment strategy because that list includes many clients of my firm.
Yours. Yep.
So I'm going to vote on the financials, but it's only on the financials. I just wanted to
Be clear.
about that.
Well, I don't. It's one motion, so I would just recuse yourself
From the financials?
We already voted on B, on the approved September bills.
Yeah, I voted on that.
So on C, accept financial statements for August 2024, you just recuse yourself.
Yeah, or it sounded to me like I can, in voting on the financial statements, I'm not approving the investment strategy. That was my question. I haven't
But
thought
Bill's
that
saying
way
he
in the
doesn't have
last
to.
3 years
Okay.
that I voted on it.
Right.
But, so that it was just
'cause
because
he
of that
only
additional
does it on his
discussion. I thought
I'm confident that if you just recuse yourself from the vote, it will still pass.
We double safety.
Okay,
We can put all the money back at 2%.
we'll do that.
Yeah. Okay, so is there a motion to accept the financial statements for August 2024?
I make a motion to accept the financial statements for August 2024.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? Should we do a roll call then? If he's
Sure.
recused?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's just do that to
All
make
right.
it clear.
Yes.
Make sure.
Sorry,
Make sure
sorry.
Jared
I
doesn't
just,
get
there
in
was so
trouble.
much discussion.
No,
Right, right,
That makes
right.
sense.
It felt like
Let's
it.
just be sure.
So, on the accept financial statements for August 2024,
Yes.
motion by Howard, seconded by Michigan. Following no discussion.
Right.
Blackburn,
Aye.
Hedge,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Craybill,
I recuse myself.
Michigan.
Aye.
Okay, that does pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill, for all of that work. And
No worries.
looking out to make every penny we can.
Every penny.
It's like 300 grand.
We'll go through trustee comments.
No comment?
No.
And for me, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned at 8:30 PM.